Welcome to In Orbit, Mash Those Buttons podcast dedicated to Destiny and its community. I'm Jorge, aka GoToNRG, and I'm here with John, also known as Waldy. Say hi.
Hey, everybody.
And the original King Dingling himself, Jarret.
Thanks. I guess nobody has introduced me like that before.
I figured I'd change things up since we're changing things up here. We're sweeping things under the rug and pushing them out the door. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Okay, I'll take that as a no. You don't know what I mean, but we'll go ahead and go with it anyway. This is this is really derailed really quickly.
Yeah.
So today's podcast is focused mostly on the big changes that are happening in Destiny. Weapon rebalancing, the Taken King. We'll talk a little bit of Trials of Osiris, the issues we've been having in PvP. But before we get to any of that stuff, Waldy, what have you been up to so far?
You want to go first, John, or should I go first?
No, you can go first. King Dingling.
Oh, thank you. Oh man, I mean, what have I been? I've been thinking a lot. I've been doing a lot of thinking and internal meditation on whether or not I'm going to get the Taken King. And between those meditations,
I was going to say you were at a point where you almost didn't want anything to do with this game.
Yeah, like I really was, and yeah, well, mainly because the way, not mainly because of the way it was handled, just it was so many things. There were so many things that were going on. Like I was still salty about the Dark Below. I was salty about the launch. I was salty about the fact that am salty about the fact that it is clear that they removed content from the original game and put it in like DLC packs for later. Like that is clear. That still bothers me. How it was handled. How the announcement for the Taken King was actually handled, and now it makes more sense. Like they shouldn't have said you're going to get more information in the coming weeks. What they should have fucking said is that you will find Game Informer is going to give you information. It is so clear now that fucking game that they had like some type of agreement with Game Informer to give them exclusive information on the Taken King, and that Game Informer was going to have like a magazine spread on it. Like that's what happened. Almost all the questions we wanted answered are going to be in Game Informer.
Well, I mean, if we think about it, it's not that. It's. I mean, they already have a deal with GameStop, don't they? I mean, all the big DLC and pre-order packs usually go through there. The big package, the one that has the replica strange coin, that's through GameStop. So, considering that don't they own Game Informer?
Yeah, they do.
So, I mean, we really shouldn't be that surprised that the big leak and story came from Game Informer, aka GameStop.
No, it's not a surprise because a lot of games do that. A lot of games will go through Game Informer because it's one of the last legit, if it is maybe possibly the last legit print magazine for gaming. I mean, Edge, don't get me wrong, Edge is still in print, but I'm talking about like that people actually talk about and in mass consumption. Sorry, Edge. But because you got to be really into fucking reading magazines, I think, to read Edge. To be honest with you,
right?
But it was like it is so clear now. Like Bungie didn't tell us anything. They shouldn't even. John hit on the head.
The nail
on the head last time. Yeah, thank you. Hit the nail on the head last time when he said that they basically just touted the price and didn't tell us why we should get the expansion. And now we know why we should get the expansion. That's because of all the stuff in Game Informer. They should have been more transparent and maybe not kept it a fucking secret from the community that, hey, you're going to get the info, but you're going to have to wait till, like, what was it, late June, August? Well, it was August, because it was this past week, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, that, now that they've given all this information, there's just, it answered a lot of questions. Because I know we're actually going to get into is the $40 price tag worth it a little bit later?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to get into it now, but it definitely opened up a lot of eyes, But it's still a lot with Destiny that I'm not sure. I guess one of the big things is that I've been doing matchless buttons for 5 years, right? And one of the things I have said, like when I was writing articles and when I've been doing podcasts, is that game companies do not care about your feelings. They don't understand your feelings. They don't care about you complaining. The only language they understand is money. So when you're upset with something, you have to talk with your money. It's the only thing that they understand. And I say you can't promote bad behavior like with publishers and with developers. You can't really tolerate it because they're just going to continue to do it. And one of the things that I'm wrestling with now is like, well, if I go ahead and buy the Taken King, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm saying, oh, it's okay to give me a shit game for $60. Well, not sorry, Destiny's not a shit game. I don't want to say that because that's absolutely not true. Destiny is not a shit game, but it really feels like they withheld content from us. They didn't address issues. There's still massive lag in the Crucible. There's so many problems, and now $140 later, if you buy the Taken King, now all that stuff seems to be taken care of. The Taken King. So Destiny with the Taken King seems to be the game that we should have gotten in the first place. A lot of the changes are logical.
Right. Well, I mean, I know me and Walter were talking.
That kind of falls into a video that got released earlier this week, in which a couple of the developers were talking about the initial release, the vanilla. And they said from day one, as soon as it started, they realized, I think the quote is, "Oh my God, there's so much to fix."
Yeah, that was Luke Smith who actually said that in that video. Not a Vidot.
So it really came down to then why did it take so long to fix? Why I've noticed with some developers there's a little bit more openness and I guess realization about what the issues are and coming forward with it. There seems to be a major delay with Bungie. And you're talking about some of the things Jarret just mentioned with, let's say, with lag and whether it be Iron Banner or Crucible or some of the other issues that they have. It seems like they're not taking care of it until really a whole new game comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in some of the other games I've had, when there were issues, within like a week or two, it was all right. We hear you. We're looking into it. We're going to take care of it. It's just Bungie. There's a lot of communication from Bungie, but it just seems like an awful lot of it really doesn't mean a whole lot.
I would say more. There's a lot of things being said from Bungie, but not effective communication.
Right. And that falls into excuse me. That falls a lot into why you came out with limited information about the game, except for the price, when you could have just what they really should have done was come out with all of this information. I really do think that they should have come out with all of this information at once so that people could really get a feel for what they're going to purchase, or if they were going to purchase to begin with.
All right, so how about we just jump into the topics right now? But before we get into the main topics that we were going to talk about, let's talk a little bit about Gamescom and their presentation. What did you guys think of Gamescom? For in terms of Bungie, let's ignore all the other stuff, but let's focus on the Bungie stuff.
I got to be perfectly honest with you. I was so drowned in work last week, I did not catch Gamescom. Mm-hmm. I didn't get a chance to watch the videos.
Okay. What about you, Waldy?
I don't even know what Gamescom is.
Oh, swing and a miss in this! Swing and a miss! Udubal Herrera. All right, so...
He's like, Gamescom?
What is this German thing? So
man.
Gamescom came and went last week. And a lot of the videos that I was sending you guys and images and whatnot actually came from Gamescom. And I gotta say, Bungie was way better here than they were at E3. I don't know if it was because it was a more intimate atmosphere or because they actually had substance. It also helped that the Game Informer leak, or whatever you want to call it, happened literally the day before before their press conference at Gamescom. So all this stuff led to a perfect storm for them to really, get a lot of people in, and they said, "Oh, I definitely want to buy now." But there's a lot of controversy that happened before that. So how about we go ahead and talk about that first? First big thing is patch 2.0. The big thing happening is basically auto rifles are getting buffed. Scout rifles, by the most part, are getting buffed. They are having some stuff with ammo, but for the most part, they're still the same. And by default, they're just getting buffed because everything else in the game is getting destroyed and nerfed. Hand cannons. They just went to town on hand cannon. And while stuff like Last Word and Thorn might be better close range, they're definitely not going to be the overpowered weapons that they are right now. What did you guys see from the nerfing and the buffing from patch 2.0 that really caught your eye? Because we can go into detail about it, but I figured better to ask you guys since I'm sure a lot of people already read that update back and forth when it first came out.
Yeah, in summary, a lot of it I'm not surprised by. As much as I'm a Thorn user, I knew it was coming. I had to. And it's not just the Thorn, it's also the Last Word, which I feel like is taken over. I feel like I see more of the Last Word than the Thorn now. So I saw that coming. It had to. Even as much as I even used handguns a lot, even I knew that it was pretty ridiculous that the range that they had. That was really my main issue with it. It's really the range. I didn't have any problems with how whether it was overpowered or not. It was really just the fact that you could kill someone from across the map with a handgun. The scout rifles, it doesn't surprise me. They sound pretty proud of of their scout rifles, and I think they want people to use it more often. Sorry, the auto rifles. It sounds like they learned their lesson that they just went a little bit too far the first time around. When really they nerfed an entire category of guns just because of one gun, and I thought that was totally unnecessary. And I really do think an auto rifle should be one of the major gun categories that people should be using. But pretty much everything was expected. I think if there's one thing that I'm surprised at is the fusion rifles are still kind of off to the side, and if they just did something with the charge rate, you may have a much more popular gun there. And it's a shame because it's the one gun that's different from anything else in any kind of first-person shooter games that we play. Especially for those that play like Call of Duty a lot. I mean, this was the one gun that sticks out to be like, oh, this is, for once, it's not a sniper rifle, it's not an auto rifle, it's not a handgun. It's something else. And unfortunately, they made it into something that it's really not very useful. So I would like to see that gun become something more.
See, for me, like the fusion rifles, while I understand what you're talking about with the charge rate, I think that they should feel powerful in the fact that if it takes that long to charge it up, it should be a powerful blast. And and never, when you're using one, do you feel, oh, it's a powerful weapon. I mean, outside of Plan C, I rarely see fusion rifles in the Crucible at all. I never see fusion rifles in PvE. I mean, shotguns just completely replace fusion rifles. There's no point in using a fusion rifle. I remember when I first went through Vault of Glass, one of the weapons that I was using was, I forget the name of the fusion rifle, but it was a void fusion rifle to take down the Minotaurs, to take their shield off, and then somebody else would go in and do some damage or whatnot, and we would take the Minotaur down pretty quickly. But it was that risk-reward system where we had a powerful feeling secondary that we don't have that anymore in terms of that weapon. There's no point in having a fusion.
Right. And I think that takes away from the uniqueness of the game. And for a game in which they seem to want to adjust everything to give each gun a fair chance or a reason to use it, that's the one that keeps falling just by the wayside of, you have a whole gun category here that even you just said you don't see it in PvE and you don't see it in PvP. I'm surprised that wasn't one of the main topic of discussions of, hey, people aren't using these guns. What do we have to do to get them to use it? Because it's clear they're looking at it that way with all the other guns. What do we do about scout rifles? What do we do about auto rifles? Well, let's buff them. Let's add a little bit of range here. Let's add a little bit more power here. Let's make it more useful. And whether it's just the charge rate, increasing the charge rate, or maybe even knocking down some of its impact a little bit with the increased charge rate. Just try a little bit more of a balancing act to see whether or not people will pick up on it.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the different stuff. It seems like they nerfed them and they buffed them at the same time. The one big thing that really stands out to me is, thank God you can't get shot in the toe and die. Final round on sniper rifles are getting nerfed. While you'll still be able to use final round, it'll only do the extra damage on critical hits, not body shots. Jarret, was there anything else here in this update that caught your eye or something?
Actually, the whole update caught my eye because it's just another example of, and there's Bungie hate coming in, by the way. There's another example of how Bungie does not know how to balance weapons. Okay? Like, they basically, it feels like with this update and previous updates, it looks like they simply went through the data. Like, okay, users are using hand cannons and pulse rifles. They're not using scout rifles. They're not using auto rifles. So let's change the guns that they're not using to make them more viable. And we're going to take the weapons that they are using and we're going to nerf them. And I think they don't see that the reason the Crucible is the way it is because players are only using overpowered weapons or unbalanced weapons. Like, I mean, I'm a Thorn user, and I will tell you straight up, the Thorn is OP. The Thorn is OP. Okay, it is. It is OP. I think even Red Death, or even just pulse rifles in general are. Well, actually, sorry, I shouldn't say pulse rifles in general are a little OP, but when you compare them to when they nerfed the auto rifle, they're definitely OP. Like, there was no balance there. Like they're buffing scout rifles. In my opinion, there's zero reason to buff scout rifles. Okay, because every scout rifle that I use in the Crucible, I do pretty well with. I just choose not to use them because using a Thorn, I get a bigger advantage because the Thorn is OP, or using Red Death, I have a bigger advantage because of how they buff the pulse rifles. But there's really no reason to buff scout rifles. With them buffing scout rifles, it's going to make scout rifles OP. The changes they're making the hand cannons, I mean, I think it'll balance it a bit more. And if they weren't buffing scout rifles, it would be okay. They needed to buff auto rifles because they just nerfed them way too much. They're not really viable in the Crucible, not because they nerfed them that badly, but compared to the buffs that they gave, the pulse rifle, and then the fact that they didn't really nerf. Oh, I'm sorry, they did nerf the hand cannons, like with the range damage, but it was a joke, and the magazine, but it was a joke because I'm still killing snipers with a thorn.
Do you think?
Go for it. It's okay.
What would?
Just go ahead and jump right in there, John.
Oh, hi, guys.
Hi. Well, I didn't hear anything, so
okay.
I thought it came to an end. Sorry. I apologize if I just interrupted you.
It's no problem.
But in your opinion, like you said, you feel that the Thorn is overpowered, and there's certainly a couple other guns we could say are overpowered. And you said that so they're going to nerf the Thorn or hand cannons in general, and then they're going to buff scout rifles. Now scout rifles are going to become overpowered. Do you think it's better that they play this game of these adjustments here or there for all the different gun categories and keep changing them until they hope to find some kind of equal balance between them all? Or do you think when you have a few guns that are overpowered, that instead of changing them, why don't you make the rest of the guns a little bit better to meet what the overpowered guns can do? It seems to me if you have some overpowered guns, then why don't you make some of the other guns a little bit more equal in their level, instead of this back and forth game of, well, we're going to buff but nerf, but we're going to nerf that but buff this, and then we're going to just continue buff nerfing these other categories.
Buff nerfing.
Yes.
To answer your question, Waldy, the one thing I from reading extra stuff about 2.0, it seems like they reworked the entire system underneath the weapon system. So if need be, because I have a feeling the first weapon that people are going to complain about as soon as 2.0 comes out, you're going to see a whole bunch of Might and multi-tools. I'm warning you right now, people. I warned you before about Red Death. You didn't want to listen. Might and multi-tools coming your way. It's about to put a foot in your ass. But anyway, it looks like the underlying system beneath the game has been modified to allow greater flexibility in weapon tuning. So they actually put a range modifier on the guns that actually works. So I believe that because they did that heavy change to the weapon system, excuse me, it'll be easier for them to modify the different weapons and balance them out more. The problem with a game like this, back when Vanilla Destiny came out, it was easier to balance the guns. Because they decided to throw 300 different types of weapons in House of Wolves, a lot of them that didn't really mean anything, it's become more of a challenge. It's become almost Borderlands-like. And I believe that they're going to get to a point where the guns are going to be somewhat balanced. It's just the biggest problem is you never want to buff something. You want to bring everything down to a certain level. You never want to bring it up too much. Otherwise, it just becomes a game of one-shot fest.
That's exactly what I was going to get into. Like, the fact that if you brought them up to the level of the overpowered weapons, all of the weapons would be too powerful. There has to be a balance. Like, this isn't Arma, or Counter-Strike. In Destiny, I don't think you should be turning a corner unless you get sniped in the head. You should not be turning a corner and dying instantaneously. That's the thing. You have to nerf. You have to bring them down. The overpowered weapons. You can't, bring the underpowered weapons up to the power of the overpowered ones. But in terms of this, I do think it would be best if they just brought the weapons down rather than this constant back and forth, where we're gonna buff these weapons and nerf these weapons. Because I think Might multi tool is gonna be a big one, and I also think Fang is gonna be a big one. Because basically that's what I use when I need to have a legendary in my primary slot. Then the Fang is what I put in there, and I'll put it, whether it's a special or a heavy weapon that I need to be my exotic. I just use the Fang as my primary, which rest in peace, according to the next the Taken King, because I won't be able to use that for much longer.
Right. I mean,
how much time and energy is Bungie putting into creating all these guns? And I just read an article this morning about tons of new exotic weapons that, when it really comes down to it, you see like the same 5 guns everywhere. Very rarely, and it's only because, depending, let's say, on a crucible map or a particular enemy that's in close quarters, will you deviate and use something really specialized. But for the most part, you're using the same weapons, or you're being killed by the same weapons. It makes me wonder if, God, for all these legendary weapons that came out for House of Wolves, that everyone immediately turns to Motes of Light. What was there really a need for that? Maybe I really wonder whether or not the emphasis should be just making a handful of quality guns instead of just a shitload of guns that everyone's just going to get rid of to begin with. Really, what's the point?
Well, I mean, the big thing, jumping ahead in topics a little bit, since we opened it up, the big thing with the Taken King is they're basically making all the old stuff irrelevant. So when you do that, you have to introduce a whole bunch of new weapons. You're going to have new players come in. They're going to need their weapons. You're going to have intermediate players who stopped at level 20 for whatever reason, who are going to come in. They can't get the legendaries from Jump Street, so they're going to have to start somewhere. And then you're going to have people like you, me, and pretty much everybody else who's been playing this for a while now, where we're going to need our own weapons. And it's going to be quite a shock when we realize, okay, all the old stuff needs to go. We need to replace it with new stuff. So I think, given that, they know that they're starting from basically from scratch, and basically starting a new game. They almost had to do this, where they had to just completely just throw open the vault, give you a whole bunch of weapons, and the 3 different weapon foundries. The Suros, Omelan, and Hake. I probably mispronounced that. You do have to do the phlegm, but everybody knows it's Hake. the Hake. Where it seems like that's where the specialization is going to come into play. Especially with stuff like Omelan, where they're going to have all these alien tech. Suros, where you can modify stuff, and then Hake with their back to basics approach. It's going to be an interesting, since we don't know too much about the weapons that are coming out, outside of the fact that, you and I are going to get a Suros pack because we pre-ordered. Ha! I guarantee you I'm going to get rid of that weapon within the next 2 weeks. Yeah, it's tough to really say how to approach it. I understand where you're coming from. Where we basically, anytime we get a low-grade humility or some stupid shotgun, we basically shard that. It becomes a mode of light. I think it's going to be more interesting now, where people are going to say, okay, this gun is going to do this, but it only does this if it's a Hake weapon, or if it only does this if it's an Omelan weapon, or a Suros weapon. So now you're going to be keeping more things, even though you're not going to get any more space in your vault. It's going to be an interesting time once Taken King comes out, because they're still holding back something regarding legendary weapons, because they told us, yeah, your old weapons aren't going to be useful, but don't shard them yet. Don't shard them yet. Hold on to them.
Well, I think it was mentioned in the Game Informer article that they said you can still use those weapons in like the I don't know, first 5 or 6, I guess I guess boards or whatever.
Right, the story missions.
Yeah, in the story missions, so there's no reason to get rid of them yet because they'll still be useful in the beginning. But in that time, I'm sure you're gonna start picking up new weapons that you're gonna replace them with. You're gonna have to.
Right. No, but there's more in addition to that. They're talking about possibly an infusion system where, let's say, I get a scout rifle from the new raid, and I have the Fang of Ute. I could sacrifice my Fang of Ute to the scout rifle to give it certain powers, like, I don't know, Third Eye or the Arc Burn ability or something. There's a lot of hints that's where they're going with. Like, that's how you empower your weapons. You sacrifice weapons to it, and it takes on certain perks.
I admire with the changes that they're trying to make. Ultimately, they're trying to make a better game. But I feel like, as we discuss this more and more, that we're just going to run into a lot of the same problems that we've run into already with the weapons. There's going to be tons of new exotic weapons. People are going to pick the 1 or 2 that are easily most overpowered, and everyone's going to complain about them. Then they're going to have to go through this whole system again of how do we change that. I like this idea of the sacrifice one gun in order to have this other gun to have some of its qualities. It's different, it's new, but it won't be long before there's a Reddit articles on how to reforge your weapon or what weapons to use in order to essentially make a new overpowered weapon that either everybody will go after or it'll be something that needs to be changed again.
Speaking of the reforging, if you've noticed, a lot of these features on the weapons have completely omitted the topic of reforging weapons. They have talked about reforging armor, but they haven't talked about reforging weapons. In addition to the weapon handler having a perk system, and you can rent weapons, kind of like Link Between Worlds, where he'll let you rent the weapon, and then all of a sudden you got to give it back because you died or whatever. It seems like they're putting that kind of system, and then you can choose to buy it, and it'll come to you on Wednesday with random perks. So it seems like they're kind of going back to the old style where the guns that you can purchase or whatnot will have random perks, and you can't just spend endless motes of light to reforge it to the quote-unquote perfect roll.
Thank God, because that shit was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's how you get the fucking Matador. That's how you get the Matador. That's overpowered too, and I fucking love my Matador. Okay. So many people, they hate my Matador. I fucking love it.
And what surprised me is that they would take a gun like the Matador and just basically give it out, which is what they did. It wasn't a gun that needed to be earned. Or Party Crasher. They just gave it out to people. And you shouldn't be surprised that there's a lot of complaints about people just running around with shotguns.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest maps, I watch people run around with shotguns, and it's a Matador or a Party Crasher. And and it's like, this is your fault. This is your fault because you handed these things out.
Yeah, I see people rolling with those shotguns in Pantheon, which is basically Sniper's Alley, and yet you have somebody aiming down sights to snipe, and all of a sudden you see blink shotgun. Like, how did this happen?
Bungie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know what the thing about the gun balancing? They really, it feels like they don't play the game. That's what it feels like. It feels like they don't play the game. Or, they play PvE, but they don't play PvP, the people who are making decisions to change these weapons. Because in PvE, the weapon changes, for the most part, have been great. I mean, like a lot of people switch over to shotgun from fusion rifle, but the fusion rifles aren't completely irrelevant. There's still times where I use a fusion rifle depending on the situation. But with the PvP, you need a much more nuanced approach to the weapons and the balance. And I feel like they need to have a team of people that's all they do. All they do is play fucking Crucible. So they can see when he's happening. Because if you're a Crucible player and you play Crucible on a regular basis like we do, I think it's pretty obvious what needs to happen with the guns.
They need to be blown up.
It's pretty obvious. Like, why did it take them almost a year to nerf the Thorn? Why? Like, that gun from the start was a problem. I don't understand it. I don't understand how they could allow a burning effect on the Thorn.
Actually, to be fair, it wasn't a problem until the auto rifle nerf really kicked in. It was lethal, but it wasn't lethal to the way it is now.
Dude, I stopped using auto rifles before the auto rifle nerf because of the Thorn. Like, I mean, you know what I think happened? More people started getting the Thorn, and it became more obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Thorn was kind of difficult to get.
There's definitely...
Yeah, go ahead, Johnny. You already started.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I do like the idea of making, and it sounds like this may happen with the Taken King, is that there's going to be weapons that you're going to have to go through a lot in order to get. I like that. But just knowing what Bungie has done, there's just going to be people who are like, just complaining nonstop. They have a gun that I don't have, probably because they either can't do raids or they don't have enough people to get together in order to complete certain missions. And these guns, technically, from my point of view, should be very good guns. They should be top tier guns. If you have to put a lot of time, a lot of grinding, a lot of searching, playing with groups of people, they should be really good guns. And it's just going to cause people to complain. And from what I can tell, Bungie, as much as it takes them a long time to finally get to making changes, they seem to cave in. And there's still a part of me that believes that there's just certain guns that should be really good, but they should be very hard to get. And when you take some of these guns, and Jarret just mentioned about the Thorn, a gun that should be hard to get, and you start introducing it to more and more people, and people are able to get through all the objectives in order to get it. Then you have what you have now, which is 6-on-6 Crucible, in which probably at least 8 out of 12 have Thorn. 3 have the last word, and then some newbie is running around with a hard light.
You just hear it like, where is that guy? We can go kill that guy.
Or No Lands Beyond.
Oh, God. Anyway, moving on, Baldy. Now, to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, it does seem like for the exotics, Bungie has said that there's over 12 new exotic weapons that are going to be introduced in the game. A lot of these exotics seem to be going on quest lines. You have to go on a specific quest line to actually earn that weapon. They already mentioned one of the weapons, a heavy fusion rifle, which is more of a railgun than anything else. I forget what it's called right now, where you have to find the parts of it inside the Dreadnaught. Once you get all the parts, you take it to the gunsmith. He remembers about this weapon, and he sends you on a quest line to get certain things for it. And that's how you empower the weapon to actually use it. I personally am okay with this, as long as the things are actually challenging. I'm not saying full-on Final Fantasy VII Ruby weapon style challenge where it's almost impossible unless you know that Hades freezes him, but that's besides the point. I'm going in a different direction. but it should be a very challenging thing, and it shouldn't just completely drop on you like, oh, I know where it is. Follow me. I'll take you to it. Everybody gets this piece. Yay! Like it should be somewhat predictable, but at the same time, a little bit of randomness introduced to it. Like, oh, there's a big, huge boss that you have to fight to get to the other side to start the quest line to find the piece. Something like that.
Yeah, I have no problem with the guns having their own kind of story for you to kind of go along in order to get. Let's take Necrochasm. That, as much as it was annoying to finally get a Crux of Crota, but you had to work for that gun, and I don't mind doing that. And I'm not someone, I don't get mad at people that kill me with guns that they had to work towards in order to get. If I see someone that kills me with a messenger that that they got from the lighthouse, I don't get angry at them because they went 9-0 and they made it to the lighthouse and they were able to get that gun. I don't sit there and say that's not fair. That, in fact, more than anything, it makes me say, I really want to get that gun. I need to figure out a way to get to the lighthouse. I don't like being killed by Eidolon Alley.
No, but it does seem like that's where Bungie's going, where they want to introduce quest lines, and it does seem like they're going to go back and change up a lot of the experience. Going forward a little bit in the topics, one of the big things that they're doing is they're going back and they're cleaning up pieces of the story. One of the big things is, bye-bye, Peter Dinklage. We hardly knew ye, and yes, the wizard did come from the moon. You can go to the moon now. And in comes Nolan North. I'm sorry. And he's coming in. He's replacing all the voice acting for the ghosts. He's going to be more involved in the story. And they're re-recording certain things so that it cleans out and fleshes out the story so it makes sense. And they're also redoing the subclasses so that they have their own quest line. This is something I saw happening as soon as they told everybody, hey, if you guys want the year 1 emblem, you have to do this quest line to get this emblem. As soon as I saw that, I was like, this is the direction they want to go in. I definitely could see them doing this not only with stuff such as the year 1 emblem, but also weapons and bounties and whatnot. How do you guys feel about this direction that they're going in?
I've played the game. I'm not going to go back and replay the game just to see the stuff that they either added or for more story. I'm past that. It doesn't really interest me that much, and adding a new voice helps. I don't know. I don't know the backstory of what happened in those recording rooms, but there's a part of me that, after seeing what Bungie has done so far with this game, that this may not have had anything to do with Peter Dinklage, but whoever was telling him how to read the dialogue, and whoever wrote it. I have no problems with them changing things up, but I don't think their emphasis should be, well, we're going back and fixing the original game that you played. When it comes down to the price of the product, I want to see new items. I want to see new objectives, new maps, new everything. That's great. That's great that you're doing it. It's, in a way, they're saying we screwed up. This should have been better. Yeah, I agree.
And let us fix it for $40. Thank you.
Right. And that's why I have to say that, if you're going to talk about price playing a part, that's where you have to impress me with what's new. Don't tell me you're basically putting out a director's cut of the game, of how it should have been done. So it's welcome. I'm okay with it, and they wanted to go a different direction with how some of the story is and everything, and who's doing the voice acting, and you mentioned the emblem, and very objective gameplay. That's fine, but yeah, you gotta really stress what's new.
Right. No, I do think that they're definitely stressing what's new. I think the big thing was that if you really think about it, this is the first full year that the current developers, because Bungie went through a major upheaval 7 months before it was released. This is the first full year where the developers at right now have full control over the story. Because the original writer left and they had to change everything about the story. Problem is, they already had recordings. They already paid these people. So they're not going to come back and re-record stuff. So they had to take bits and pieces of what was there and completely fit it into what they had. And they only had 7 months to do it. So I kind of am happy that they went back and cleaned it up. Simply for the fact that it'll put a foundation for what we're going to see in the future. I was looking at the videos for Taken King. One of the big things is this massive dogfight in the rings of Saturn, and then all of a sudden a giant explosion in one of the rings, and you see the Queen's brother kind of like screaming, and he has this look on his face. So he's probably going to become a bigger part of the story than what he was before.
I hope he dies.
I know a lot of people hate this character.
Fucking hope he dies. I hope he has a terrible death, and it's not redeeming. He goes out like a bitch. That's what I hope. That's what I want to happen to that fucker.
And his ship turns into a giant rubber ducky.
Something. Something that's not redeeming at all. I don't want anybody liking this guy when he fucking dies. Like, oh man, he died like such a bitch. I know, right? Like, that's what I want to happen.
Now, one of the things I was actually interested in getting your take on, Jarret, is that, okay, the first 8 missions of the Taken King are going to be we know one of them's on Phobos, and they're doing stuff where you're getting the new subclass. But the second chapter of the story takes place on various stuff. One of them, actually 2 of the missions, involve the Vault of Glass and Crota's End, the raids. We're going to go to the Vault of Glass to discover what happened with Praedyth, and we're going to Crota's grave in his dimension or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I know you're not a huge fan of revisiting old areas.
No.
Especially in reverse.
Oh, yeah.
But given that they're going in different directions with this, and they might open up new areas in the raid stuff, or use up areas in the raid that, for example, remember when during the jumping puzzle, you have the one that's very apparent in front of you. Waldy knows which one I'm talking about. There's a second jumping puzzle area in the back when you go through the caves, that there's more jumping puzzles and more area over there, and then there's the portal and stuff. They could be going in that and over there and opening new stuff up. How would you feel if they opened up new stuff in areas where the raid
were? I still call bullshit. Like, I want new content, especially for $40. You know what I'm saying? Like, the stuff that they're going back and doing, like revoicing and giving clearing up the story and changing the leveling, that should just be icing on the cake. That $40 that you're spending should be brand new content. And if they keep rehashing, because the thing about Destiny, it's not like it's huge. It's not huge. Destiny is not a huge game in the least. You know, it is not an expansive world or, you know, an expansive adventure going over multiple worlds. It does go over multiple worlds, but each of those worlds are pretty small. You know, and we should we should have new content for $40. We shouldn't be paying for them to redo the original game and then give us a little bit more icing on the cake. Like, these 8 missions for the Taken King, they should be new areas on the planets that we've been. We should not be going to the same places over and over again. And this is one of the reasons why I'm still on the fence about the Taken King. Because if I buy the Taken King, and then it is exactly what we're talking about, where they have rehashed areas, and which they could totally do. Actually, that one strike that's on Venus that we saw, that goes through it goes through the same area that you go through when you go to fight the dude on the steps. What's his name?
Zydron.
Yeah,
the Gate Lord.
The Gate Lord, yeah. Like, you see them fighting through that area, probably in reverse, and then you go to, probably, a final new area where you fight this boss. This is the shit that I'm talking about. This is exactly the shit that I'm talking about. So, I hope did I clear it up?
Well, one of the new areas that we are going to go to on Earth is actually behind the Sepkus Prime lair. You go to the Sepkus Prime room, you'll actually see a broken Sepkus Prime on the ground, and then behind him, I don't know if you've ever looked at the room, there's a giant garage door in the back where there you see the water, and then there's a garage door in the back that's kind of cracked open. You can kind of see over there.
Uh-huh.
You're going to be going that way and up the space shuttle to the top. This is going to sound bad, but there's no other way to put it. The top 3 balls on top of the ship.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if you're fighting Oryx proper, or if it's fake Oryx and it's just his version of Omnigul or whatnot. But there's something going up there where you realize, oh, wait a minute, there's more wolves over here, and there's an actual entire, I think it actually might be House Kings that's up there, because they're all hidden and stuff, but that's beside the point. You're going to go up there and you're fighting Oryx and his Taken and whatnot.
Yeah, stuff like that. I want new areas. I want this bullshit. 2/3 of the mission or 3/4 of the mission is in old areas where we fought through God knows how many times, and now we've fought through in both forward and backward. But we fought these areas God knows how many times, and now at the very end of those areas, okay, now there's a little bit new content. No, I don't like that at all.
I think that's why I'm more excited about the Dreadnaught. It's because it's something new. It's something I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I mean, I can see you completely hating the first chapter. Although, the first chapter does seem to be... There's a lot of new stuff, because you will be going to Mercury. Apparently, people have already hacked into the area where the Titan gets his hammer. The way they've hacked, you have to go 9-0, and when you go 9-0, if you notice, kind of like it is on I almost said Venus, but it's actually Mars, the Black Garden. When you go in the normal way, if you go towards the area where the strike takes you, the Undying Mind, there's a big gate. It's like staticky gate, Vex gate, that actually pushes you back if you jump towards it. A similar type of gate like that is on Mercury. And supposedly they've already hacked into it, where you go into this giant area, and when you go through there, there's missions or Vex or whatnot, and that's where you would get the hammer. And Mercury itself is actually rather the social area, I should say. It's actually rather new, and that was completely added. That, in fact, that's one of the reasons why the House of Wolves was so big, because they added that whole huge social area in anticipation of stuff that they're doing in the future. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. And I know you're not super excited about going back to... I mean, one of the missions, I was looking at the video, one of the missions actually takes place on a Crucible map.
Yeah, I saw that on Mars, right?
Right. Is it Blind Watch?
Blind Watch. Yep.
Yeah.
Fought a bunch of times there.
Get ready to go back there.
Good. Then you know it really well then.
Yeah.
You'll know it better than the enemies that you play against.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. But like Waldy, I am very excited to go back not back, to go to the Dreadnaught, completely new area, a huge fortress in the sky. The area that we get to explore apparently is as large as Mars or Earth, so it's huge. And there's a whole bunch of stuff to do there. In order to even get there, you're gonna have to level your guy up to be almost new cap is 40. And one of the big things is that they're removing the light in terms of level. The light is still in the game. It'll be attached to your armor and your weapons, but it'll affect the amount of damage it does for weapons and the amount of damage you can take in terms of armor. I still don't know how I feel about that light stuff, just because it seems like such a weird system. I am glad that they got rid of it in terms of leveling, but what do you guys feel about in terms of the light?
I mean, I want to see how it plays out, because my understanding is that, you have to level, like, via experience from, 1 to 40, or in our case, it's 34 to 40. But I want to see how it plays out, because it doesn't light. It's like it's supposed to affect how powerful you are. I guess how hard your shots hit. I want to see how that plays out. In PvE, obviously it's going to be a big deal. I want to see how it plays out in PvP. Like, what's the difference between somebody who has a highlight level on a maxed out character versus somebody who doesn't? Like, how is that going to play out in Iron Banner? That, in my opinion, that that takes a game that with the PvP, that it seems like they can't get under wraps right now, and just makes it more complicated. Because they can't, like, I mean, if you tell me that the crucible is balanced, I'm gonna call you a fool and probably slap you in the face because you're an idiot. Because it's not with fish. Yeah, that's the acceptable way to do it, right?
Do it with the sturgeon.
Yes, the only way. That's the only way to do it. Oh, I'm not a savage, Jorge. So, but yeah, like, that's the thing. The crucible's not balanced as it is, so now they're adding another layer of complexity that they have to worry about and balance onto a game mode that's not balanced. And that's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, and that's one of the reasons I don't like Trials of Osiris. Like, I mean, actually, I played for the first time, as you guys know. This what was that, Friday night?
Yeah, yes. I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think when I played and we got done, I said that you can't have an elimination game type for a game that's not balanced, and that's true. But it's also, you can't have an elimination game type for a game that's this cheesy. So you have a game that has tons of cheese and it's not balanced, and you can't have like an elimination game type. You need all the game types you have to be semi like playful. You know what I'm saying? Like, at this point we don't get too mad when we die in the Crucible or when we lose in the Crucible, because it kind of doesn't matter. It doesn't sting that much. Everybody's got cheese and we use it and we blow the shit out of each other on maps. But when you're playing, an elimination game type, the cheese is just more frustrating and it's more annoying, and so are the imbalances. You know what I'm saying? And for them to add another layer of complexity on top of that stuff that they're not balancing, it just, I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, when we were playing, we got Gorgonzola right on out of the air.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like, first of all, in a game like that, why is radar on? First of all, second of all, the imbalances come in because we were dying because they were spamming us with arc grenades and the flame burst. Like, come on! Like,
no, the worst, and you have to admit this, was when we got lag switched.
Yes, that was the absolute worst. Obviously, I mean, that's another issue in itself. Bungie doesn't really. It feels like they don't take the PvP that seriously because they haven't done anything about that either. I mean, there's not much they can do to stop people from doing it, but they need to take more action on players who are doing it. So I mean, if there's other games they can figure out when players are abusing the game and using lag to their advantage, and they ban those players. I mean, Valve does it every, let's say every 5 to 6 months. But Bungie hasn't addressed it at all.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I was thinking about this the other day that, of course, you can always report the player, and whether that really does a whole lot, I can't say. Even though I know that when we played against that person that was lag switching, that I think I spent half the game just reporting him instead of actually joining into the game, which is part of the reason why we lost. But we were going to lose anyway. The I almost wondered why Bungie doesn't have some form of a reporting system on their website where you can actually give the player's name and then support it with the video and something that way they can actually see it for themselves and see what's going on, and then something could be done almost immediately about that player, or even some kind of website where people could go and report it. But it would have to be backed up with a short video just showing them what exactly is going on. And the more that happens, I would think Bungie would have to step in and recognize it even more. Because I know there'd be plenty of it.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough on Friday I played a couple times. I went 8-2, so obviously I deleted my card and got a new one since there's no point in going for the 9th win since you're not going to go to Mercury or you're not going to get anything else. Was able to go 7-3. Then there were times where I just got boat raced on out of there. And today I was fortunate enough where we went flawless. I got a whole bunch of scholars, one for each element actually, which is weird. But I gotta say that the payoff for this stuff wasn't too tremendous. I'm interested in what they're going to be doing. Because one thing a lot of people aren't talking about, there's going to be a Trials 2.0. Because they're introducing bounties for Trials of Osiris. That's going to include new armor, new weapons, new gear, all that stuff. And it almost seems like they're going to make Osiris his own faction, which is going to be interesting not only for the weapons that you might get or whatnot, but also in terms of the storyline, since Osiris in the storyline does not agree with the speaker at all. I mean, one of the helmet. If you look at the helmet, it says, "Don't you find it interesting that the one named the speaker rarely has anything useful to say?" So they're going to explore that. I hope they explore that later on in the game, but that's beside the point. I'm just interested to see what they do with the light levels in the Crucible and all the stuff that they're going to be doing in the Crucible. And I pray to God that they just take the entire Iron Banner and they completely flip it on its own thing and make it a completely different thing. Iron Banner, last time we played Iron Banner, it was a little bit better than the lag fest that we had previously, but it wasn't that much better. There were games that were very, very playable, and me and Waldy, we were all playing with our friends. We did pretty good, but then there were games where it felt like a slog to just grind through all that lag, and it was just terrible. And the rewards just don't feel worth it. The armor, it looks amazing. I love putting that armor on for looks. I will never, outside of PvE, because some of the stuff actually is pretty good for PvE, I will probably never wear that stuff in competitive multiplayer, in the actual stuff that matters. It's terrible. The reward system, I hope they completely fix it and they make it better in Taken King.
Yeah.
But
particularly Prison of Elders. Let's not forget about the reward system in Prison of Elders.
Speaking of Prison of Elders, the one interesting thing on the Dreadnaught that kept catching my eyes is this one area called the Court of Oryx. Even though it's a patrol area, it's an arena-like challenge mode where bosses will continuously challenge you. So it's basically taking kind of like the stuff from Prison of Elders and putting it in there while you're on patrol, and you can choose whether or not you want to go there. And I could definitely see a couple exotics coming out of this. They also mentioned the King's Fall is the name of the new raid. They already said it's guaranteed to be larger than the Vault of Glass. They haven't specified what the level is, or if there's going to be a hard level. They all said to be determined. And they've mentioned that the second half of the story mostly takes place on the Dreadnaught. There's a new strike, new stuff that will be happening on the Dreadnaught. There won't be any more "quote unquote" easy mode in terms of in terms of patrols. The public events will be challenging. They keep emphasizing bosses. There's not target. Like, you're not going after a specific target. You're going to go after a boss. So it's going to be and a lot of these bosses, they mentioned that it's almost Zelda-like. Like, for example, you have a knight. You keep shooting him, it keeps saying immune. But if you notice, there's this big red spot on the back that you have to have somebody hit so that he goes down, and then, like, let's say his helmet comes off or opens up or whatnot. You have to hit the boss that way. There's a lot of from what I keep reading, stuff that Mr. Luke Smith, your favorite guy, Jarret, keeps saying they're going for a lot of multi-stage bosses where, kind of like the spider tank. You shoot the legs, open its neck, shoot the neck, and then you go from there. What do you guys? How do you guys feel about this stuff with Dreadnaught so far?
Oh, when I read it, you said the Dreadnaught is a huge fortress. Is it supposed to be an explorable area, or is it actually supposed to be like? So it's not even like a raid.
Right. The Dreadnaught is like you have Earth, Mars, Moon, Venus, Dreadnaught, which is over there by Saturn. It's its own explorable area, and the raid is inside the Dreadnaught.
So the raid is inside of an area that we're gonna get to explore.
Exactly, yes. Kind of like Venus.
Well, I mean, in Venus, you can't go into the Vault of Glass without actually having, being inside of a group that's in the Vault of Glass.
Right. No, but like, for example, like, you'll get to explore and you get to pass the entrance to the raid, but you can't go inside.
Oh, okay. You'll see the entrance to the raid, but you won't be able to go inside. Okay, right. That's what you're saying. All right, so the raid, I was going to say, see, there they are, cheating you again. But no, okay, I see what you're saying. Well, they said it's comparable to Earth and Mars. I mean, that's great. Like, we already have something the size of Earth and Mars. It's Earth and Mars, and one bigger at this point. I mean, at this point, they should be really looking to I mean, how many active players do they have on the PS3 and the Xbox? Really? I mean, like, how many active players do they have? They should be looking to phase those systems out and giving the next-gen systems, more content. Because if they didn't have to worry about those older systems, then, I mean, we would probably have better content as it is. We would definitely have a bigger vault, and the levels that we play on will probably definitely be bigger. Like, Destiny is so far from hitting its potential on the new consoles. But I wouldn't say I would be impressed by a patrolable area that's as big as Mars or Earth, because, I mean, they're not that big.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I think the big thing, the reason they haven't removed PS3 and Xbox 360 support, this is just me taking the information provided and analyzing it. They're saving it for Destiny 2 not because they want to, but because the system isn't there yet. They're still making Destiny 2, and the progress it's still not there yet for them to completely introduce this new system. Because if all reports are to be believed, Destiny 2 is going to be humongous. It's going to change everything in terms of the system. It's a completely new system. One of the big things, I don't know if you guys realize, or I'm sure you guys realize this. Every time you change a weapon in the Crucible, like, let's say I have a sniper rifle, and I'm not getting these kills with the sniper rifle. I'm going to have to just switch to my shotgun. I can't switch to my shotgun mid-fight without losing all my ammo. That's actually a glitch in the game's code that they cannot fix using the current system. Why? I have no idea. I'm not the programmer. I'm not the one that figures this out. But the current engine does not support them changing the from one weapon to another without completely removing all the ammo.
I have a very hard time believing that. I have they don't want to spend the money to spend the time to figure out how to fix it. That's what that means. From one coder listening to that. That just sounds like bullshit to me. Like they don't want to spend the money on the time because the thing is about obviously the code base is already done. The money that they have to spend is a resource, like a person actually working on it. They want that person working on something else, so it's really just a matter of priorities. You know what I'm saying? And like I guess going back to with that in mind and going back to the conversation about having large levels, I can't like it's not it can't be that. Well, I'm sorry. Obviously, it is a limitation of their system. Let's say that it's a limitation of their system, but that's a limitation they put in place on their own. They decided to because look at a game like GTA, and then you look at GTA Online. You can go from one side of Los Santos all the way to a different to the other. You can go. Well, actually, Los Santos is just the city, but you can go to the other city that's like in the sticks. Out there without loading, changing levels, like it's all seamless, and you can do that in regular GTA and GTA Online. So it's hard for me to believe that if they wanted to, they could have totally done that. They could have totally made levels that were bigger, just like GTA Online, because GTA Online, that map is huge. That map is probably the size of, I gotta say, at least 3 or 4 Earths. In Destiny. And so that's just a limitation that they decided to put in place. And what that comes down to is priorities and just they not wanting to spend the resources or use a resource to make it bigger.
What do you think of the stuff in the Dreadnaught, Waldy?
I'm definitely interested in seeing it. There's an awful lot of this that it's too early to tell how I'm gonna feel about it until I'm actually in it. When you mentioned like the whole light system and everything, I feel like I won't really grasp it and see exactly what's going on until I'm in it. I'm looking forward to going somewhere other than Earth and the Moon and Mars and Venus. Seeing something else. I've seen some of the art that was done for the Dreadnaught, and I'm looking forward to it. I like seeing something different. It's one of the drawbacks to Destiny is that after a while it's just the same thing over and over and over again. So seeing something different, having these events in which you'd be going against bosses. Again, the other thing I've noticed is it seems to me an awful lot of this is solidifying the idea that you're going to be playing this with other people. I don't see anyone saying, I think I want to go on the Dreadnaught and start battling bosses, taking on challenges against bosses by myself. Everything just seems more like, all right, you're going to want to be playing with other people on this. So, and that really falls back to one of the main reasons why I enjoy the game. Is because I'm playing the game with friends. So, yeah, no, I'm interested in see what happens with the Dreadnaught. I certainly, Jarret brought up Grand Theft Auto, and I kind of wonder the same thing with a lot of games. Why there's so many limitations? Why is this game so wide open, and why are some of these others where, if I get a little bit too close to the line, suddenly I have a countdown on my screen telling me I'm going to die unless I move one inch to the right. You know, is there a reason why I can't just explore other areas when clearly it's there? When every time we go into Vault of Glass, clearly there's plenty of other areas. Then why have it there if you can't do anything with it? So yeah, and we'll see what happens with Destiny too. I don't know. I still think I know you're definitely for the Taken King. Jarret is a little bit more on the line, and I guess we'll learn more soon which way he falls on it. I'm gonna do Taken King, but I'm definitely gonna uh, you know kind of keep an eye on things and on how Bungie does this. Because this is a lot of time and energy going into these games that they really need to start to earn that time and energy and money in order to keep me going into it.
Right. I mean, jumping on one of the things that you just said right there, I really hope Bungie within the next few weeks, because they're going to start doing Twitch reveals, kind of like what they did with, with House of Wolves. But anyway, I really hope that they introduce a social space, an actual social space where you're talking to other people. Hey, I need to do this mission. Anybody want to join up? And it's in game.
Right.
Destiny LFG is cool, and I can get groups really, really quickly. But to actually have it in game makes it more interactive. You feel like, okay, I don't have to boot up my computer. I can just go to, I don't know, the tower.
Dude, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I had a thought, but I don't want to interrupt you like some people on the podcast.
Oh, snap.
Oh, wow.
Damn. But yeah, I just...
talk about passive-aggressive.
Sorry, go for it, Jorge.
But yeah, I just hope that they introduce something in the tower to do something like that. And from what I hear, they're changing certain things in the tower. They haven't really said for what. So I hope that's one of the things. The big thing that concerns me is there's players like Sage. He's probably not going to pick up Taken King if, as Waldy said, a lot of these things are big social things. If it's not something he can go ahead and take care of by himself. I mean, when last time he came in, the big thing was, I don't even do the bounties anymore because why do I need to do them? It's so easy to level up an item. I mean, I do one mission, the daily mission, almost the entire weapon's completely maxed out. So it's going to be interesting for players such as that. And I had a feeling something like this was going to happen. This is a very social game. It's meant to be social, and they've been introducing more and more social elements into the game, even though they haven't really given you a tool to use in-game. So it's going to be interesting when you see players who come from that single-player first-person shooter experience, and they're faced with, well, this isn't what I originally signed up for, and they start leaving.
You know, the thing I was going to bring up is that I don't know how it is on the Xbox side. I don't know how the Xbox app works on phone. Actually, no, they do have that Xbox like Glass app, I guess. And I'm not sure if they added the ability to use the chat or typing on it. But on the PS3 on the PlayStation app, you can definitely pick up your phone, start typing, and it will show up on the screen for you. With that being the case, is it really that hard for Bungie to put a text chat in the game?
I've been saying it since the beginning. If it's halfway there to being an MMO, and one of the big things is the global chat. And I think if you're not going to do an LFG in the game, at least introduce the global chat where you say, hey, I'm looking for this. Because right now, the only thing that Bungie's introduced is on the apps. You can put, I'm going back to the old AIM days, like an away message that kind of says a whole bunch of stuff of what you're doing. Or you can put it in your AIM profile, and people look at your AIM profile, it's like, oh, this is what he's doing. Oh, I'm going to fill out this list. Except, in this game it'll be like, oh, he wants to do this. I'm available for that. I'll send him a message. But you actually have to go through the app to actually even get close to this stuff. And it doesn't make any sense sometimes. The app is so clunky that why would I use it for a social thing? It just doesn't make sense.
We talking about the Destiny app.
Yeah, the Destiny app. The PlayStation app, it used to be junk when it only, at least for me anyway, I know some people it didn't work that way, but my experience, it used to only work on Wi-Fi. It would never work on cellular. I've heard people say that on Android it works on cellular, but I have an iPhone 6 Plus. For the longest time, it would only work on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I was. You would have to. I'm on Android, and I was talking to people on PSN like while I be at the line at the Wawa. I could even do stuff like turn my PS4 on. From the Wawa. I'm like, okay, I'll be there in 10 minutes. I'll just turn my PS4 on or off. Stuff like that. Actually, when I figured out I could do that, I really wanted to have kids so that they could be playing some shit. I could just turn it off remotely. That's fucked up, right?
That's a damn shame.
Don't be disappointed when you find out that the changes to the tower meant a new color ball and some new songs in the bar.
Yeah.
I'm excited, and hopefully in the next few weeks, because as of the recording, it looks like we're just about a month away from Taken King. And by the time this podcast gets out there, it'll definitely be a month before Taken King comes out. So I'm excited to see the different changes and see if as I believe right now, Taken King is worth it.
Well, yeah, I think because you're. I mean, there's no doubt that you are a Destiny optimist.
I'm a loser.
No, I won't say you're a loser. You like the game. And you like to see the best from the game. You give them the benefit of the doubt. I am definitely not a benefit of the doubt type of guy. In terms of video games, I think it's because I've been doing this. It feels like forever at this point, but it's only been 5 years.
Ever?
You just see the same things over and over and over again. Like and when it comes to promoting bad behavior, it becomes law, and then other games start do it. Like, I mean, just imagine if the Call of Duty DLC map packs didn't sell. What if the community actually said, fuck you, I'm not buying rehashed maps. Fuck you, I'm not paying for stuff that should have came with the goddamn game, or I should be getting for free. What if that, we would not be in the DLC situation that we are in right now,
It depends. Is Nuketown part of that package?
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, that's what happens when you promote bad behavior, and that's, like I said earlier, that's one of the things that I am wrestling with so much, because I want to play with you guys. I love playing with you guys. I love playing with all of our other friends.
Aww.
Sometimes some of the people that get on, they need to go, Jorge. Some of them need to go. Okay. But but for the most part,
would it rhyme with brown board?
Sometimes I just can't handle it. For the most part, I'm okay. But anyway, it's. I mean, I think we're all on the same boat. I mean, the game is enjoyable enough. Like I said, the game doesn't suck. It has great shooting mechanics, and the content is good enough for us to want to play and have a good time playing together. I mean, how many times have we run, especially you, Jorge, run Vault of Glass, Crota's End, stuff like that, and you'll go back and keep playing because of the people that you're playing with. But at the same time, I don't like getting fucked, and they are fucking us big time. That's what it really feels like. They are fucking us big time here. The game, in my opinion...
I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
It's okay. I mean, the game, if you think about it, the reason why we're all playing this game at this point is because we all got it independently. Like, when Destiny first came out, I wasn't playing games with you, Jorge. I wasn't playing games with John. Shit, I wasn't even playing game with Sage, you know? I wasn't playing games with my friend Jeff. I wasn't playing game with, the Spaceman Craig. I wasn't playing games with all these people. But we all got Destiny independently because of the hype, because we played the beta, and the beta was amazing, but we didn't realize the beta was 1/4 of the game. Okay. Unfortunately, the beta is 1/4 of the game. So we all have this game, and that's why I think the game, imagine if it didn't have that much hype behind it, and a lot of people didn't play it. I think the fall off would have been too much, and the game would be almost an afterthought. Like, they'd be talking about releasing the Taken King now, and we're kind of just like, Destiny, that game sucked, or that game, it wasn't worth it. But because we all got this game independently because of the hype, we got together, and now we're playing it. But the game itself, like the initial launch, it wasn't that great. Like, you finished the game in one day, and now you're just constantly doing the same things over and over and over again. And at one point, it was like, okay, if they, at least the way it went with me was, I was like, well, you know what? They had a misstep in the beginning. They didn't release enough content, but we got the new expansion coming out, and I think that's going to fix everything. I was Jorge at one point. Okay, I was still Jorge. It's like, hey, I think we're gonna be okay when this new expansion comes out. New expansion comes out, me and Sage finishes it in 90 minutes, and I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me here. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Then you have the raid and the hard mode of the raid, and that's it. And that's when I started to turn to the Grinch of Destiny. Okay.
You're a mean one.
Yeah. And then you get the House of Wolves, which isn't. I mean, it's a good expansion. It's not a great expansion, but the only reason it got rave reviews was because the Dark Below sucked balls. There was a huge disparity there. Other than that, $20 for what we got in the House of Wolves, I'm like, okay, well, I can swing it. I guess it's fine. But at the same time, I still have gripes about doing every mission backwards, going into the Vault of Glass for a mission and basically doing one part of that fight. That's basically what it is. It's a lot of rehashed content. And now, here we are at the Taken King. Everything that I'm hearing is more rehashed content with the first 8 missions. We actually saw some of it. Chapter 2 is going to take place in the Vault of Glass and Crota's End locations, which is more rehashed content. Now there's going to be the Dreadnaught, which is new content, but it's just going to be a patrol area for the most part. So we're going to get tired of that. It's the same size as Earth. Then on top of it, a lot of the stuff that they're doing and they're fixing is systems they should have fixed a long time ago. Systems that should have been fixed with a free update. Voice changes that should have been made already. Or even, like, do we even really care? Like, I don't even care. Like, if they didn't have the Ghost talk at all in this next expansion, I wouldn't give a fuck. I don't care about the Ghost at this point. We had 2 expansions or 2 DLCs without him. He doesn't really matter anymore. But they're going back and revoicing him. They're changing up the story, making things more clear. They're changing the leveling system. I mean, all that stuff should be icing on the cake. That should just be updates that they give the game, period. That should not count toward that $40. And that is what I'm wrestling with the Taken King, because it pretty much goes against what I've been telling people to do for years, which is talk with your money and don't promote bad dev behavior. And that's why, because I know when people listen to this podcast, they're like, this dude hates fucking Destiny. And I don't hate Destiny, but I hate the way it treats me.
It just plows you, no loop.
No loop. I hate the way it treats me. And like by me buying the Taken King is just kind of like, it's okay. But in reality, like, I don't think it's okay. But I mean, if that's what my friends are playing, there is no other game that all of us have. Inside of our group, if you look at the Darkspell, group that we're in, you have some people playing one game and some people playing another game, but the largest piece of the group plays Destiny. That's because we all got the game, and that's the thing. That is the advantage that Bungie has here. That's the advantage right there.
Our listeners should also know that you're the only person that doesn't have a Gallon Heart.
Yeah.
That may or may not be adding to some of the vitriol.
The thing is, I've done almost everything. Actually, I've done everything in the game without needing to have a Gallahorn. Not having a Gallahorn has not stopped me from doing anything. And I know if you are a shitty player, you need a Gallahorn to do certain things. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everybody who has a Gallahorn is a shitty player, but some people, they won't even try to do things without having a Gallahorn. And me, like I have definitely gone through situations where, gone through and done well in situations where everybody's like, well, you need a Gallahorn, or you need this, or you need this weapon, or you need that, and no, I was fine.
Oh, we go through Skolass all the time, and you don't have one.
Yeah. And so. even when, before they had the Skolass nerf, I did manage to beat Skolass one time before the nerf, and I didn't have a Gallahorn. You know?
Right.
So yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm a pretty damn good player. That's so like not having a Gallahorn isn't a big thing of contention for me. I just think with as much as I've played this game, I don't have a Gallahorn is a little fucking ridiculous. You know. Same thing with Fatebringer. I don't have one of those. I just got a Mythoclast. I don't have a Anger of Anger of Crota?
Hunger of Crota.
Hunger of Crota. Sorry, that ridiculous fucking a rocket launcher. You got to be kidding me. I watched that one video. I just want to have it just to have it. Like I would never even use it. I just feel bad.
I actually started using that over Gallahorn just so I wasn't using my exotic.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I rarely use my Hunger of Crota. It's just not worth it. I thought it would be way better, but it's kind of a piece of garbage.
Even after that dude, like he missed that guy twice, and
I don't know how that happened. I could understand a Truth, just because Truth is ridiculous with the tracking. It's like, recalibrating, and I don't know how that. It just like it went in. I've never seen rockets do loop-de-loops like they do with Truth, except that one time with the Hunger.
I thought the Hunger had aggressive tracking, just like Truth.
It has tracking, but not the Truth's tracking is torpedo-like.
Uh-huh.
It's ridiculous. I have seen in game a loop-de-loop from a Truth rocket, and I laughed so hard that I had to leave the game. I left the game completely.
Nice. Yeah. So I mean, that's what I'm really, really wrestling with here. It's like it's gonna sound really bad when I say this. Like, do I like my friends more than I like my principals?
Damn.
Like, that's what it comes down to. That's what it really comes down to. Like, how badly do I want to play? Because we have a great time when we play, and it is not because of Destiny. And I know that for fact because, I mean, actually just this, I think it was Tuesday, where you guys were playing, and I was in Destiny, and I was in the chat, but I wasn't doing anything. I was in the tower, and I was working on something on my computer while I was just talking to you guys.
Yeah.
That was it. You know, like, and that happens. Like, there's been so many times where me and Sage have just sat in the tower and bullshitted for like 40 minutes, and we're like, you want to do some Crucible? Yeah, okay. You know.
We don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like we just kind of sit there.
Just hang here.
Yeah, pretty much. And we just sit there and we bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely...
Oh, go ahead.
Definitely adds to the socialness to it all, and like you said, so sometimes it works out really well, and sometimes you're playing against people that you'd rather have them booted out, whether it be just because of their personalities or how incompetent they are when they play. But yeah, no, it's one of the main reasons. It's probably the number one reason why I'm willing to try the Taken King, and then we'll see how it goes. And I know one of my issues with the game is that when it comes to raid armor and weapons and everything, I got a lot of this stuff way too late in the game, and therefore everything felt like a rush to try and catch up. What I'd like to do is once the Taken King comes out, is start playing and be more involved, and from the very beginning, and try and set my characters up the right way. I don't want to go a year into the game and be like, yeah, I never got this gun, and part of the reason why I never got it was because I never did something. I never did the raids as many times as I should have to open up that opportunity of actually having it, and how useful some of these guns can be. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's coming home from work and logging in, and it's been my number one thing of just, it's become like a hangout and just having fun with everybody, which is why I hope that you decide to stay in it.
Aww. Kind of jumping in on what you just said, there is something I did forget. They are retooling. Thank God. Thank you, Hive Jesus Crota. They're changing the RNG system so that stuff that you already have becomes less common in drops, and they're making that retroactive. So you have a better chance of getting like a Fatebringer or the Praetorium foil, or let's say you already have Becksmith class 87 times. Jorge,
yeah,
you'll get another exotic. It is upping the chances for better drops, and I hope and I pray that makes better drops in the new raid. Not so much for it's just nice to not get 700 of the same exact helmet and no arms, no. One of the biggest things that in the first raid, you would have the arms, you would have the chest piece. Lord Almighty, they gave you the headpiece for some reason. But you wouldn't have the boots, or you wouldn't, like another character wouldn't have the arms at all. So one of the big things is that he's getting that they're getting the pieces of armor now, and back then that wasn't the case. It just was a pain in the butt to actually get the full set. And now if they do this RNG system right, you'll feel more like you earned that. And I just hope that's what it comes down to, that you don't get the same exact weapons or the same exact everything, and that your time invested actually meant something, instead of giving 700 Ascendant shards that you're probably not going to be using anymore.
Well, I mentioned earlier that I don't get mad when someone kills me with a gun that they've earned. I do get mad when I get killed by someone that has a better gun than me just because of pure randomness. That's what bothers me. So to go pretty much a year of being killed, particularly before it got buffed, let's say the Vex.
You mean nerfed?
Sorry, yeah, nerfed. Sorry. That was really annoying. That there's nothing worse than, it's like, no, I'm doing the same thing that person did, but just because of out of pure randomness, that person got a gun, and they probably wouldn't be the player they are without it. That is frustrating.
Yeah, that's why I definitely hope that the new system, in addition to the RNG being more fair and dropping more stuff that you don't have, and the combination of exotic weapons being more on quest lines, that things become more normalized and fairer. It's one thing to like, let's say that you can only get the Vex Mythic class, or let's make it 3 weapons: Vex Mythic class, Galahorn, and I don't know, the Thunderlord. Only, let's say that they all 3 only drop on Atheon. The first time you do it, you get a Vex. The second time you do it, you get the Galahorn. The third time you do it, you get the Thunderlord. And that way you know that, hey, I got all 3, but I actually did something to get that. I had to kill the boss, and it wasn't easy because I didn't have the second armor piece, so I couldn't get to level 30. Like, that's how it should have been from the beginning. Like, certain exotics only drop on the boss, and you have to beat it within a certain, just completing the actual boss. I don't mind randomness, but when it becomes the one thing holding back players, especially in a game like this where a certain weapon will put you over the edge, in terms of PvP. And until you get that weapon, you can't ascend to that next tier for PvP just because of how cheap it is and the cheese and lactose intolerance.
Mm-hmm.
It's really frustrating sometimes. But so on the whole, I think it's safe to say I'm all for taking King just because I love the experience. Waldy's more on the fence, but he's more on the pro side, and Jarret is more on the other side. Wait and see. You're going to join us. You know you will because we love you and we cherish you because you are the original King Dingaling.
Well, thank you.
But other than that, do you guys have anything else you want to throw in? Because I think we're pretty much there.
Yeah. No, I don't think I have anything else to add. Covered a lot.
Mm-hmm. Jarret?
Yeah. No, I don't think I have anything else to add except that I got a mythical class and then I just haven't used it.
Oh, okay.
Finally got one. I'm just like, maybe when that nerf kicks in, I might pull it out. see what it's doing. Especially if they buff fusion rifles. Woo. We're back in business, baby.
Well, everybody, thank you for listening to In Orbit Episode 7. There's a whole bunch of places where you can hear us. Let me list them for you guys. We got SoundCloud, we got iTunes, we got Overcast for iOS, Stitcher Smart Radio, we got Player.fm, we got Pocket Cast. Let's go over the different shows. Our big friends over there at WoW Talk, they play every other week. We got Double Tap. That's the fighting game, right?
That is the fighting game, yep.
That's the fighting game. They're first of every month. Then we got the Mashcast every Monday, which is on hiatus until August 17th. Who knows? You might hear some interesting voices that you already hear right now. And of course, you got us In Orbit, the second week of every month. We're also on Twitter at MTBSite, Facebook.com/mashthosebuttons, and on YouTube.com/mashthosebuttons. You can reach me at JI as in Victor, EGUILLA on Twitter. I don't know if you guys want to give out your stuff.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Concept SF, so C0NC3PT SF.
Waldy?
To be honest with you, I don't even know mine.
Oh, okay.
Well, he didn't know what Gamescom was, so I don't think that's a surprise to anybody.
Right. And you can always get me online at GoToNRG. That's on PlayStation 4. That's GO, the number 2, N as in Nancy, R as in Roger, G as in Giraffe. Until then, I'm Jorge, we got Jarret, and we got Waldy. Thank you for listening, and have a great night.
Have a good one.
Have a nice one.